first things I always work on with a horse, whether it's an old horse or a young horse, is halter work. I do this for a number of reasons. Number one, the halter work allows me to start to establish leadership and show the horse that I deserve to be a leader to them. Number two, it allows me time to start to read the horse, see how they learn, how they process information, how they respond to pressure, and all of those things. And finally, what halter work does is it actually teaches the horse a boundary or a safe space that they can be themselves in while still being safe for both themselves and humans to be around. What I think of with a halter work is I'm basically creating a box for the horse to be in, and it's a box that the horse, when I move, they can move with me, but it's setting a series of boundaries that they know if they go beyond those boundaries, I will be applying pressure and making a correction, as I am right here with Breeze, but once they're back within those boundaries, I will leave them alone. This is really important to me for two reasons. Number one, I don't want to spend all day long holding my horse in place or lead them around and get my arm pulled on. And even more importantly, I want my horse to understand the parameters of what's acceptable behavior for them in the human world, while at the same time they get the freedom to express themselves and be the unique individual that they are. So with halter work, I always start with what I call the dance, which I'll show you in a moment here, to make sure that the horse understands what I'm asking and understands the pressure of the halter and so on. From then on, I start to just move them around with it and adapt it into my everyday life. So this isn't an exercise that you're just going to do one time or two times and do the dance. It's something that you're going to incorporate into your everyday handling of your horse every time you're leading your horse. The other side of that is you also don't want to drill your horse with it, but rather just turn it into a way of being with your horse so that it allows for a deeper connection. Because if your horse knows their place in the horse-human relationship and you're clear on yours, then it allows you time to connect with them and bond with them. So there's a few things you need to know about body positioning and safety before we get started. Number one is I'm going to stand in front of the horse, but I'm going to make sure I'm off to their side. So if they were to walk forward, leap forward, strike or paw, that I'm in a safe position where they're not going to get me. Number two is my body positioning. I'm using assertive body posture, so I'm standing very tall, my spine is stretched tall, my shoulders are square, I'm standing directly in front of the horse squarely, my chin up, and I can even use my body to get bigger if I need to. The other thing is how I'm holding the line. So I'm holding the line as if I'm holding onto a bike handle. What this does is it allows me to use, if I have a horse that's a little resistant to pressure, I can use my whole back and whole body into the line so I can step into it, keep my hand still, and use that. Breeze is going to give us a little example here. What can happen if I hold it the other way is that I don't end up with a lot of power behind me. I end up just having to use this part of my body, or if I want to put my body into it, I lean into it, but then my body positioning becomes very passive. I end up rounded and bent forward. So again, you want to stand tall, shoulders square to the side of the horse, and hold it like a bike handle. I want to start out, I want the line, when I'm backing them up, which is the first thing I'm going to do, I want the line tight enough that they hit the line before my hand touches their chest. But I want it long enough that they have, if I'm just standing here, she has some freedom of movement so she can move her head around a little bit. So to start out my dance, I step into the horse, keep my arms still, and I allow the line to tighten on her nose as I step into her. And I do one step at a time to begin. And I'm pointing my hand straight to the middle of her chest. And then I give her a reward. And then I'm going to walk away. I let the line get a little longer as I walk backward and invite her forward with me. There, she came too much into my space, so I'm just going to back her out of it. To remind her that was in my space and I don't want her there. And then I'm going to practice some more backward and forward. Again, we're going to go back and forth with our dance. As Breeze is trying to walk forward here, I'm just blocking her forward motion and asking her back. As soon as she takes a step back, I release the pressure. Then I'm going to ask for another step back. Again, my hand is to the middle of her chest. I'm stepping into her. And even when I take multiple steps, every time I take a step, she takes a step back, I give a slight release on the line. It's almost like I can think of revving a bike as I'm backing her up to think of the pressure and release. Then I ask her forward again. And again, she's still a little closer in my space than I like, so I ask her back. And then leave her alone when she's back there. And so I'm just going to keep doing this dance back and forth. Letting the line get a little longer as I come forward. Making sure that I do definite stops between my dance of forward and back. And what you want to be doing is working to have less and less pressure each time, so you get to a point that your horse knows how to move off the pressure, but they're choosing to follow your body and stay within the boundary you've set. Now, Breeze is fairly light on the pressure, but we will show you a horse later in the video who's a little heavier. So once I feel that the horse is moving backwards and forwards off the pressure, and they're starting to be either very light on the pressure or just to simply follow me, I can then go on to the next step, which is turning to a more normal walk.